Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. What I'd love to do this morning on this crisp autumn Sydney morning is to go through a book and do a walk and talk. And the book that I've selected for this morning's episode is entitled How the Word is Passed by an author named Clint Smith. And this book was published on the 1st of June 2021. So this book here is a book that talks about history and how history is recorded, documented, and passed on. The author's approach is deeply human. He doesn't just list facts about slavery and its legacies. He travels, he listens, he observes, and invites us to walk alongside him through plantation tours, cemeteries, prison visits, and personal conversations where he lays bare how the stories we tell, and more importantly, how the stories we don't tell about the past shape our present reality. Reading this book isn't easy. There are moments where one needs to pause and to sit with discomfort. But it's through that discomfort that real learning and real perspective and introspection happen, and it feels less like being lectured and more like being brought into an intimate conversation, one where the cost of ignoring history is far too high to bear. So let's go on a walk and talk and see what we can learn. So the first key message to come from this book is where we learn that history is not neutral. One of the most profound truths Smith uncovers in his research is that the telling of history is always a choice, and often it has been distorted to serve the particular interests of a powerful group. Learning about the ways plantations like Monticello have selectively curated narratives makes one realize that every place carries the weight of what it chooses to remember and what it chooses to forget. We go on to talk about how memory is both personal and political at the same time, because the author's journey shows one that memory isn't just about facts, it's also about feelings, it's about emotions, it's about pride, it's about belonging, and the way societies remember or choose to erase their histories deeply influences the political realities of today. It's not just about the past, it's about whose humanity we choose to honour and whose humanity we choose to deny right now. And the next key point is where we look at acknowledgement. And according to the author, acknowledgement is the first step towards effective and productive healing. At every site that Smith visits, from the Whitney plantation to Angola prison, one message rings very loud and very clear. Without acknowledging the full truth of history, especially the horrific parts, real healing is impossible. Glossing over pain doesn't cure it, doesn't erase it. It only buries it deeper. We learn also that physical spaces carry emotional weight. There's something visceral about walking the grounds where atrocities have occurred in the past. Smith's reflections makes one realise how places like cemeteries, plantations, or prisons are not just historical artefacts, but they are also living testimonies. They breathe with the weight of stories untold and lives lost. Another interesting way to look at things is where the author says that silence is its own kind of violence. This lesson hits one between the eyes and hits us really hard. The absence of certain histories in our education systems or public narratives are not accidental, and that silence perpetuates injustice. Choosing not to teach about slavery's brutal realities isn't keeping things positive, it's actually compounding the harm. And conversations about race must include deep listening. Smith's empathetic approach, listening even when he disagreed or was hurt, teaches us that meaningful conversations about race require a certain amount of humility. It's not enough to speak our truths. We must also bravely sit with others' pain without rushing to defend or to dismiss. Because personal stories have immense power. While this book weaves in hard historical facts, it's the personal stories, the descendants of the enslaved and the enslavers, the guides, the strangers that the author meets, that truly pierce one's heart and reminds us that systemic issues are always made real through individual stories and individual lives. And the last key point to come from this book is the work on reckoning is an ongoing process. There's no finished moment when it comes to facing the legacy of slavery and racism Smith's journey isn't about arriving at neat conclusions. It's about staying open, continually questioning, continually confronting. It's a lifelong, sometimes uncomfortable, but absolutely necessary commitment. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5 a.m. Club, and I look forward to coming to you again from another place and with another message of empowerment. Take care and bye for now.